Hey everyone, welcome to Being with Cari on the Ultimate Coach podcast. Today I am joined by Mr. Spencer Lee. Spencer, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Super excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So, like I told you before the podcast, I don't really have any canned questions or any outline. We speak about being. And so I'm going to present the question to you. What is being to you?
So it's a wonderful question. And I think it's been fun for me to talk to people who have never heard about Steve Hardison or never read The Ultimate Coach or never been to a Ultimate Experience event. And especially I got to go to Peru in April, and they did the Ultimate Experience Peru, and it was amazing. Many people involved, but of course, Gabby Puma was kind of the main organizer, driving force, and she's the one who had invited me to come and to speak. And there were a lot of opportunities when people say, "Where are you going? Why are you going?" To say, "Hey, this is what's going on."
Yeah.
And then even while we were there were great opportunities um, to experience all sorts of being, and um, yeah, I feel like there's just like we could really unpack just that. We could spend a whole podcast just on what happened in Peru, but I don't think we should.
Sure.
I think we can use some time for that and use some time for other things. But so for you to ask me, hey, what is being? I just always come back to it having so much to do with presence. Because if you're being whatever you say, I'm being upset, not I am upset, not I was upset, right? But I'm being upset, right? So that means right now, that's who I'm being, that's who I'm showing up as. I'm being love, I'm being caring, I'm being presence, I'm being action. I think all of those are great. And when it comes down to it, really, for me, if we're trying to narrow it and answer that question, it's it's whatever I am present. So if my mind is somewhere else, then I'm not really, this is me, this is Spencer Lee's version, then I'm not being anything except absence. So to be love, to be action, to be caring, to be charity, to be whatever. And again, there can be negatives also,
Mhm.
uh, anger or malicious or jealous. All of those require a presence. And so if I'm not here with you, Cari, if I'm somewhere else, then I can't even be present. So I always, when people say, what is this being about? Or what is being? I think first there has to be presence, and then it can be whatever else we aspire to be. And I love in the book where Steve invites us these questions. Who would I have to be
Mhm.
and fill in the blank? And
Mhm.
obviously there are the ones on the back of the book and at the start of the book, but you can really fill it in. So one thing that I've worked with, and I'm currently doing some one-on-one coaching where Gary Mahler is the coach and I am the the pupil, we could say. Um, but
Love Gary.
one thing
Shout
that
out to Gary Mahler. Okay,
yeah,
keep
love
going.
Gary. But one thing that I've really talked a lot about with Gary that I think is so helpful um, is that whatever's going on in the world, Gary is present during those coaching
Mhm.
calls. And we've done the way I have set up with him, just to give some background. Some of it is in person and some of it is Zoom. And whether it's in person or Zoom, he is there and he is present. And that is a huge gift. And
Mhm.
he has a really, like, I'm not sure that Gary always had that ability to be fully present. I imagine that it's something he's worked on over the years. He's
Right.
really good at it. So And then every time I've been with, I mentioned before we started, I live in Mesa, Arizona.
Mhm.
My office is in Phoenix, Arizona. Professionally, I am a practicing immigration lawyer. I have my own practice. I have a couple attorneys that work with me, as well as about 7 staff. So all in all, there's about 10 of us. And so I'm not a coach, and I think always, and it's helpful for people watching this podcast or listening to it to say, oh, okay, what's Spencer doing professionally? So
Mhm.
anything I say, well, Gary does this or whoever does this, it's I'm new to this world compared to a lot of people. What do I mean
Mhm.
by that? I mean that a year ago, right now, well, I guess not right now. It's already November. A year and a half ago, I had never read The Ultimate Coach,
Mhm.
um, and but because of where I am in Phoenix and in Mesa, I have had some opportunities to rub shoulders with Steve Hardison, and he is when he's with me, right? He is present,
Mhm.
and if it's
Yeah.
for 30 seconds or if it's for 2 minutes, but I've got him, right? And I think that's so that same thing that I'm talking about with Gary. So being to just even open it up and kind of start the conversation. What is being? I think the people who I admire in their being are present.
I love that. Like that's a little bit variation of a definition I've never heard before. Like there's sorry, that didn't make sense. That
Yeah, it
is
did. It did.
it's I've heard people speak about presence when I ask them like what does being mean to you or what does it mean to be present? But I don't know that I've had anybody explain it quite in that aspect. And what I love about it though is that you integrated it with I don't have to be a coach to be present. I don't have to be somebody who's been in this community or in this environment of learning about being for years on end and learn all this stuff to understand it.
Yeah,
I say it often, it's a very simple concept that's not always easy. The concept of it is who am I being right now? Like as a verb, who am I being? Right. But then when you put it into practice or when you like Gary and like Steve do, you get right there with somebody or something, various situations. It's hard. It's hard at
yeah.
times because we have so much going on in our lives. And when your mind is somewhere else, you're absent and you're not present. And I love hearing this from somebody. I mean, I've only been in this world about 3 years. It's been about 3 years.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm not sure it's even been that long. And it was all new concepts to me. But once I was able to get it, I was like, this opens so many doors in terms of opportunities I have in my life. Because if I can
yeah.
be present with somebody, then I can be present with anybody. And if I can be present with anybody, then I can be present with myself, which I think sometimes is the hardest thing for each of us. And that opens
So,
up the possibility of grace. Go ahead.
oh, no, yeah, that's good.
Share what you were going to share before I said that.
No. I think I was being a poor listener right at the end. I was thinking one step ahead. The
That's
grace
okay.
thing is really cool.
Mhm.
So because I was thinking kind of in my professional world about listening, about presence, um, and then you said that opens up space or opens up room for grace. So tell me more
Mhm.
what you mean by that.
I was the kind of person growing up where everything was black, white, either or. And I just because of the destructive, toxic family dynamic I grew up in, I grew up with the belief that I was always wrong. And I
Mm,
was taught that I was always wrong. And I mean, if we want to go a little bit more specific, and which is interesting that you asked me this because this has been coming up for me a lot recently, is there was a phrase that I was told often when I would go to school and things would be difficult, or I'd go to work and things would be tough. I was always told, your boss is always right, even if they're wrong. they're right because they're your boss. Your teachers are
Hmm.
always right. Even if they're wrong, they're always right. And so I grew up thinking that anything I did, anything I thought, any time I wanted to stand up for myself, I was automatically wrong. I had
Hmm.
no grace for myself, and I constantly would, have these negative thoughts, these negative jabs. We do it. We're human. Somebody has
Yeah.
told us in the past that we're clumsy or that we are ugly or whatever, and then we intensify that within our own minds to our own selves. And I had no grace for it's okay for me to make mistakes. I had no grace for the fact that I was human. I thought it was
Yeah.
perfection or else, and I could never meet perfection. And so I always, always, always failed.
Hmm.
And when I stepped into being, who was I going to be? I can be somebody who's human. I can be somebody who's not perfect.
Yeah.
And I can allow myself
Wow.
to do that. And in doing that, I do, and that's you and I talked again a little bit before the podcast of I don't edit my episodes. I let the raw, authentic, organic sides of us show. And if we say something dumb or if, I a lot of times I was listening to one of them today where I was totally speaking and I was like, I totally forgot what I was saying. No idea what I was saying. Let's go a different direction. And I leave those in because I want people to see that you can be real and you can be imperfect and it's okay.
Yeah.
And I hope it gives them permission to be okay with themselves being imperfect too, because I didn't give myself that permission for 45 years.
Wow. That's really powerful.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I mean, just in the realm of like self, like grace for yourself, it reminds me of, this idea. I forgive myself for judging myself that
Mhm.
blank, for the new truth is blank. And that is grace, but we came to that, you brought us to grace through presence. And I do think there's a connection. I think that there's a connection between grace and presence in the way that you've shown and the way you've shared, even if we're just present with ourselves.
Mhm.
I and I mean I've talked about this with Gary and some maybe with I have my friend Adam Webster, and I'm not sure exactly who, but I've had this conversation with a few people of like doom scrolling, and I think doom
Mhm.
scrolling gives a connotation of like looking at things that are sad, or like, oh, I'm just stuck in the bad news cycle. That's not even what I mean. I just mean like endless, just, oh, pick up my phone because I'm bored. And today is Thursday. On Tuesday, um, interestingly enough, it was Tuesday here. It was Wednesday morning in Japan where Gary was. We had a quick call. And one of the things I mentioned to Gary was I want to um, have a desire to have some meditation time because it's not something I currently do. It's not part of my life. The Salt River here in Arizona, in the Phoenix area, there's the lower Salt River that you can float, tube, kayak. We go on our paddle boards. And so I was with
Mhm.
my friend Adam and another friend Dusty, and they were talking. And Dusty has a meditation practice, and Adam had one for you, not like a business. Sorry, he has his own meditation practice. He has his own, meditation that he does.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
and Adam did for a long time as well. And I just thought that's not something I've done. And on my mission as an LDS missionary, it was built into the structure, and I did have it. And we did, had personal scripture study for an
Mhm.
hour every morning. And that was great because it was, yes, I was reading scripture, but I was also writing and I was praying and I was reflective. And so even just you saying presence connected to grace, and it just popped in my head like present with ourselves, and how easy right now with and there's probably people that listen to this podcast that are really really good at not using technology all the time, or not always, you know, just kind of, I just don't stop. Like I wake up in the morning and good, bad, or ugly, right? Everybody can have their own opinion. I'm checking email. I'm checking messages. I'm reviewing the calendar for the day. Even though I looked at it the day before, even though I looked at it a week ago, I'm still waking up. All right, what is it that's on the calendar today? Okay, I've got court this
Right.
morning, right? I had court at 9 a.m. So I last night I took the file home with me because I'm where it is here in the Phoenix area. I'm not going to come into the office then and go to the court at 9. So I'm going to go straight there in the morning. And so I'm
Okay.
always kind of just, I wake up and it's go and it's go and it's go. And just to give a brief, example, yesterday, I had a court hearing that was supposed to start at 9:30. And without getting into too much detail or minutia, I will just say that based on some current things, the court did not start. The judge and it's a WebEx, which is also not normal for me, but
Okay.
is sometimes happens. So I'm in my office, suit and tie. My client is in a detention center, and and his wife is in my office as well, in the conference room on my laptop. I'm on my desktop in my office.
Okay.
Come on, 9:30. Okay, we wait till about 10 for the judge to tell us, come back at 11. At 11, come back at 12. He gets on about 12:25. He's actually come back at 2. So at 2, I log back in and I wait without, knowing until about 2:45. 2:45, we started and we went till 6. Now, I had other things on my docket yesterday. I had
Ah,
here in Mesa, Arizona. I live in the boundary for Mountain View High School. My oldest daughter is a freshman. I love Mountain View High School, even though I didn't go there, even though I'm not from here. I think they're doing awesome things. They're doing awesome things to teach kids in ways that doesn't feel like prison. That's
nice.
my. They're doing
That's
wonderful things
beautiful.
to educate kids without sit in a row and shut up and listen all day. So that's a whole different story. But
Right.
I love Mountain View. I love what they're doing. I was
Yeah.
going to a meeting of parents and community leaders that I had been invited to go to. And I was
Okay.
excited. That was at 2 o'clock. Well, that got blown out of the water, right? Didn't happen. I had to
Right.
message the principal, had to message the other dad who is in charge of the meeting. And, I'm not going to be there. But I'm still hopeful, like, well, this will get over at this time and I'll still be able to do this because I also am a baseball coach. I'm the assistant baseball coach, fortunately, for this particular season, for this particular league, for one of my sons. And they have games once a week, double header. This is kind of their fall baseball thing, play at 5:30 and 7:30 on Wednesdays. So I'm now messaging the other coaches. Not only will I not be there, but could somebody please take my son? And, so that's happening. And I end up getting to the ballpark at about 7:20 in my white shirt. I did take my tie off. I took my jacket off, but I got my white shirt, my slacks, my dress shoes. And where was I, Carrie? I was in the dugout coaching the kids. I missed the whole first game. I got there for the second
Mm.
game. We had fun. At one point, a lot of youth baseball now, they always have music. So they have walk up music. And then between innings, they have music. And between one of the innings in that second game, there was like some salsa music. And so, like, I'm in the dugout, like, doing some little salsa dancing with these boys. And, like just keeping them loose. They were losing at the time, and hey, all right, we're in this. Let's just have fun. And I've coached a lot of baseball over the last few years, and that's been a thing. So that's a long story to say. Yesterday was nothing that I had planned,
Gotcha.
and it was nonstop. Right. So from when I got up in the morning till I got to my office, I got everything ready to go. I'm ready for this trial to start at 9:30. I'm emotionally, and still, even though now I've done a lot, I've been doing this for 10 years, I still have a little bit of nerves. And I think that's good. I honestly think that's good.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan said, his whole career that there were lots of times he was uncomfortable, but that, that to lean into that. Right. So I was really, it was emotionally exhausting day if I let it be, because you're
Right.
ready for a trial and then it doesn't happen. But hey, come back. I need you to log off, but log back in an hour. We're going to be ready for you. So an hour later, I am ready and I've got my direct exam questions. I've got, I mean, everything, right? Oh, no, actually, checking in another hour. So this was kind of the day. It was, unfortunately, very fortunately, this is not a normal thing, and yet it did happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I, I promise you, until this conversation, I wasn't thinking, well, I'd better be a nice coach in the dugout and dance funny salsa dance with the boys so that I can sound good tomorrow on the podcast. Right? It didn't even occur to me that that would come up until right now when I'm sharing it. But that, to me, that's another answer to your question: what is being? I am going to be present. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to lift up these boys who, some of these boys, not all of them, but most of them were on an all-star team that I coached this summer. And some of
Okay.
them were on the little league team that I coached in the spring. And these are boys I care about and that I love and that I want to see succeed.
Right.
And there was nothing about besides the fact that I was in a white shirt and slacks and that I missed the first game, which were some obvious things. Nothing else in my demeanor or my action would have led those boys to believe that anything was out of the normal or out of the ordinary. It was just another baseball game and happy coach. And it wasn't, I wasn't putting on an act. I was just there. I
Yeah.
allowed myself to be present regardless of the whole day that I had just had. And we did finish the trial. We got all the way done. So that's a blessing, because with, we don't have to come back and do it a different time. And yet by the time, and it helps to have a drive, because I had to drive, from my office 35 minutes over to the base where the baseball is. And yet
Right.
it was just, I just was being, and it was great. And that's who I am. And when who would you have to be the guy to have every curveball thrown at you and then still show up and salsa dance in the dugout? And that's who I want to be. And I also feel a desire to find time for meditation and presence. And I feel this is all coming back now. I feel and believe that your connection of presence and grace, especially extending yourself grace, extending it to yourself. I think there's a connection between, we could call it prayer, we can call it meditation. For some, it could be yoga, but being in stillness
Mhm.
for some portion of the day. And that is something I'm just telling you, I am currently not doing. And being on the river last week with Adam and Dusty and having kind of that they didn't even, I wasn't even part of the conversation. I was just floating next to them while they were discussing their kind of meditation and what they do and what they've done in the past. And I was just listening and soaking it up like a sponge. And then had the thought when I talked with Gary on Tuesday, um, that's something I want to do. And so it's even coming up now, Carrie, as we talk, and you connected presence with grace. And I really believe that there is a connection, and that I and anybody else who wants to receive that invitation could extend ourselves more grace and understanding if we took time to be present with ourselves.
I love all of that, Spencer. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I I would love to share with you the direction that I thought you were going to go with that,
Yeah,
because
please.
it in that moment while you were speaking and a thought would come up and I'm like, this is what he's going to say. I would catch myself going out of presence because I thought I knew what you were going to say. And then you said something else and I'm like, nope, get right back in it. Get right back in this moment. Get right back into, listening and not formulating, oh, I'm going to speak on this when he stops talking, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is so habitual at times. And then I thought you were going to say you were in the dugout and you kept thinking about the trial,
Oh,
or or you were being hard on yourself because you missed that first game, because you were not because you were in your work clothes. The things that for me were the negative things. You're like, man, I didn't do this. Again, you're practicing it in real time, not even knowing that we're going to speak about it today. Because
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to speak about it. I have no idea. But you absolutely had grace for yourself and said, and whether you said it verbally or auditorily or not, or whether it was just more of a nervous system kind of a thing, I forgive myself for whatever was supposed to happen, didn't happen. I'm going to be here now. We're going to do what needs to be done right now, and we're going to do it in the most fun way that we can.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, one of my
go right
jobs
ahead.
as the assistant coach is to, um, on this team, that's one of the things I do is warm up the pitcher who is going to come in the next inning, or if we're in the middle of an inning and we say, "Oh, go, let's go have so and so." And even just doing that, I was I was I was 100% with that kid because I warmed up, during the game. I think right before the game I threw with, nope, it was just two of them. So two of the boys yesterday I warmed up, and in those moments, like, that's just where I was, and it was that presence. So there is a, I can't be, in my mind, again, this is being according to Spencer. In my mind, I can't be joyful, I can't be loving, I can't be charity, I can't be coach if I'm not first being present.
Hmm.
Or we could
Yeah.
even say being presence.
Yeah.
um and so, with, again, like I said, without realizing that maybe this would be something we would talk about today, and specifically that everything that went on yesterday that was different than what I had planned when I woke up in the morning,
Yeah.
especially in those moments with those boys, warming them up. They're going to go in the game, right? And I was just right there, and it was wonderful. And there's something to that, of being in that moment. Like, I've got a catcher's glove on. We're out. Yesterday we're the home team, so home team's usually third base dugout. So there's a little grass area between the two fields because there's multiple fields at this place,
Okay.
and that's where,
Okay.
there's some space to warm up. There's not parents right there, and the stands are kind of over back behind the dugout, and we're out to the left of left field. And I mean, no place else in the world I would rather be in that moment, just right there in that moment. And it was wonderful. And I wasn't thinking really anything except, you know, I've got the catcher's glove on. And, all right. And then a little bit of like, all right, let's throw from the stretch now. He's doing a few from the windup. Let's throw from the stretch, like just normal stuff. And then, all right, let's go. So we walk back to the dugout together, and now they're in the game. And, just giving them that little bit of extra coaching and encouragement right before they go back in. And I love that. And so you were listening to the story thinking like that maybe it was a story of failure, and I have those stories too. Not a failure, but a story of maybe not being as present as I
Hmm.
aspire to be.
Yeah.
And yet last night, I mean, that's where I want to be. That's who I aspire to be. Who would I have to be that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I have improved. Am I perfect? No.
Right.
And I give myself credit for improving and getting better at being present. And like I said,
Hmm.
I've already recognized Gary. I've recognized Steve. Dave Orton, we had a Zoom call 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, and he was just laser focused that whole time. Like, he
Yes.
was
Hmm.
with me through the screen, right? And
Yes.
so, there's people that are great examples of that. And I'm glad to have learned from them. And that's certainly something that, um, reading the book, rereading the book, working with Gary, going to the ultimate experience in Scottsdale and then the ultimate experience in Peru. And I've had Eric Thurison, who puts on the Ultimate Experience Scottsdale with Judy. And I have formed a friendship, and he went to Peru, and he's also floated the river with us a bunch of times, including last week. And especially when we were in Peru, I remember one breakfast where we were having breakfast at the hotel, and Eric was just, he was just there. There's no other way to describe it except just fully there, fully present, not worried about anything really, just in that moment. And that to me is the goal there, and it have you ever seen Kung Fu Panda?
I
And
haven't.
so Kung Fu Panda, it's a very funny movie, and but it's got these little like bits of wisdom, right? So he says, the sensei says to Po, who's the main character, who's the panda learning kung fu. Um, he said, the past is the past. We can't get it back. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is all we have, and that's why they call it the present. And I'm getting it wrong as far as the exact wording. But that to me is this idea of presence, is all we have is right now. So if I'm going to be all in, it's all in with who I'm with and when I'm with them and where I am. And that to me is if there's levels of being, that I'm not sure that there's a level above being fully with who you're with in the moment you're with them, wherever it is that you are.
I would love, I, sorry, I'm getting emotional and I'm trying to speak through that. I know the quote that you're speaking of. Funny enough, I just interviewed, or not interviewed, but had one of these conversations with Tony Schmaltz just a couple weeks ago, and he said the same thing. He quoted, he's like, Kung Fu Panda. I'm like, nope, never seen it. And I remember him saying that quote, but he said, today is a gift. That's why we call it the present.
Yeah, there it is.
Is
There
that
it
it,
is.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And when you started saying that, and I remembered how he said it, it really touched me because when you speak about the ultimate experience, Scottsdale, and that Eric and Judy Thurston put on, um, I was blessed to speak with Jim Wilcher at that last year, and our topic was being present. And I won't go into detail about what I spoke about then, but I spoke about experiences of other people who were present with me when I had no idea what that was, and when I couldn't have grace for myself, and when I couldn't forgive myself for anything, and I couldn't see any worth in myself, and they were present with me. And so just now when you said that, and I thought about today's a gift, it's a present, us being present with other people can be a gift for them. And we don't know whose
Mm.
life we're going to touch. And I thought about that when you were saying I was right here with these boys, warming them up. And I just like, who knows if that boy needed that in that moment. We never
Mm.
know what other people around us are going through. We never know the heartache or the frustration or the sadness that somebody else may be feeling in that moment or for the past few weeks or months or years. And somebody being present with them can change their lives. And it can be a
Mm-hmm.
gift to them. And I know that because that's happened to me. And I wouldn't be here on this podcast. I wouldn't be who I am today if there weren't specific people that I came across, some of whom you've mentioned today, that didn't stay in presence with me. And I find for me that when I try and be present with people, that times I feel like I get inspiration or I get nudges or I feel like my intuition is telling me something. And that has been my experience of other people who their intuition was like, we need to be present with her. We need to say something to her. We need to do something with her. And it was life changing, life changing. And so I learned about presence as first as a receiver,
Hmm.
as essentially being one of those boys who somebody said you were important enough and they see you. And then I was able to finally learn how to be that for myself and for other people. So presence, man, it's such a diabolical thing. And it's again so simple, but not always easy. But there's so many layers to it for self, for others, for community. It's amazing. The level of presence that Eric and Judy have when they have all of these events. I spoke with Eric on being with Cari. It must have been right after he came back from Peru. And we spoke about he told me a story about the ultimate experience that they had, where they started to go live and all the cameras go down and none of the technology's working. And Steve didn't want to be recorded. And so then he's like, all right, what's happening right now? Doesn't matter what happened 10 seconds ago. Doesn't matter what's going to happen in 30 seconds. Like what's happening right now and what can I do right now? And what do I need to be right now to be like, okay, we're going to do this. And they are such amazing examples of that. They are just, when I talk to Gary, Gary and I don't talk a whole lot. Gary and I voice note each other back and forth all the time. And I'm telling you, it's like I can't do anything else when I'm listening to a voice note. He's not even here. And I can't do anything else because it's like, I know that when he listens to my voice notes, he listens with everything he has because of the voice notes he sends back to me. And he's giving me 100% of Gary Muller. Like I have Gary Muller in that moment. I have every bit of his attention, even though it's a voice note. Because when he left it, that's exactly where all of his attention was.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful way to be.
Yeah. I've received some of those voice notes.
They are,
Spence, Spence, I'm here this morning, sitting in stillness, and I just wanted to leave you a quick message. Like but even just like he just Spence. Like as soon as I hear
mhm,
that, I'm like, I'm the same way. Like I have to what, like I'll go grab it. I'll always because usually we WhatsApp each other and we every once in a while one through Instagram, but mostly through Facebook. I think that's just because even though we have each other's cell phone numbers now, because it started through Facebook, like we kind of
right.
still and I could just be like checking it, like, oh, I'm gonna brush my teeth, or because he'll send it to me at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
and I wake up at 6:30 in the morning. So I'm doing so, oh, I'm gonna listen to this marriage message from Gary, and I'm kind of, and all of a sudden he Spence, and I'm like, like I just kind of stop, but I hadn't even thought of it that the way you just phrased it, which is he is in that moment, you've got him. So even though it's a recording 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, whenever he left it, when he left it, he was all the way there.
Yeah. Yeah. He he is an amazing, he's also an amazing example of being present because I've heard him say before, and I know that, how did he say it? It was with a master class that he did for Townsend for TCOS. And he was talking about how when things that are difficult for him or life goes awry, you
Mm-hmm.
lose your house, you whatever. He's like, I don't care. I don't care. He doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about, oh no, what's going to happen, or running around trying to figure out. He's like, things are going to work out. And that gives him that space to be present in every moment because he doesn't focus on the past. He doesn't focus on the future. He focuses on what can I do right now? And then right now. And what about right now?
Yeah.
And he just, yeah, there are some powerhouse people when it comes to presence in this community. I'm telling you, it's such a blessing to be and learn from people that have just, they understand what it means and they integrate that into who they are every day. And with that, they give, it was, actually, I don't know if I should say their name. Somebody was telling me one time about, because I don't know if they would want me to share. We have a thing in the community about the document and the declarations that we make every day and who we're being, right? And some people choose to, and some people choose not to, and everybody makes it a little bit different way. And somebody was telling me one time that one of their declarations is, I am always present. And when I'm not, then I clear that up and then I become always present again. And so there's this striving for always being that and the grace for yourself when you're not in that same statement, in that same declaration. Because when they
Yeah.
first said to me, I am always present, I was like, that's bold. Okay. And they said, and then when I'm not, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it was powerful.
I mean, it's even just going back to how you said earlier, the grace and the connection of presence and grace, and even that statement, I am always present and when I am not, right?
Hmm.
Um, I love, reading and hearing other people's documents, um, that say things like, I um, I am kind to myself, but only always.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. And it's aspirational. And there's also a part of me that likes this idea of I'm always present. And when I am not, I clean it up and I become present. Um, it's just kind of a recognition that it is still aspirational. It is still what you're still trying to achieve. And there's a recognition that there's not going to be 100% presence all the time, always. I had a thought that I think is useful and helpful to this conversation.
Please.
I've been married for 15 years. We celebrated 15 years, July of 2025. We got married in 2010.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's
You're welcome.
we have, we evolve as a couple, and I think all couples, either you grow stronger or weaker. It's a marriage is a living thing. It's growing or dying. A business is a living thing. It's growing or dying. There's
Hmm.
lots of things that are they're either getting better or worse. There's not much in this world that's stagnant. Let's say
Right.
that.
Right. Very true.
So the longer I've been married, the very first Christmas we were married, I wanted to give my wife the world. And we were very much struggling college students. We were both still in college. And I also wanted to surprise, because to me, in my love language, and I didn't know about love languages really, I kind of knew peripherally, like, and I had, been exposed to the idea, but I hadn't internalized it.
Okay.
And so my love language, what mattered to me, because I was 23 and figuring life out still. I mean, we all are, but especially then, I thought, I'm going to surprise her. I'm going to get her something nice. So um, I got her a wedding band, because when we got married, I had not gotten her a wedding band. I'd given her an engagement ring, and that's what she was still wearing, and still does, right? I wanted to get her a wedding band to go with it. And she had said, oh, when I get a wedding band, I would like one with like diamonds all the way around it, right? And it can be,
Okay.
and then so I bought her a wedding band for uh, $300, and everybody who just heard that that's listening to this podcast has a different relationship with $300, and
Hmm.
I can't speak to everybody's relationship with what $300 means. I can tell you that at that time that was a lot of money to us.
Okay.
And I had made this purchase without her permission, without discussing it, without talking about a budget. And in my mind, it was a grand gesture of my very sincere love for her. And
Right.
we'd been married 6 months, and this was finally going to get you a wedding band. And I listened and I was paying attention. I got the kind you wanted. Well, she did her very, and she opened it in front of my parents, in front of some of my siblings on Christmas. And she did her very best not to cry. So fast forward 15 years, and along the way, I've had some other hiccups, unwanted gifts, gifts that were for obvious reasons. Um, she wasn't like as stoked as I wanted her to be, and so I've learned I'm a little bit hard headed, and what I now know is the best thing for my wife, for her love language, for our marriage, is to give her me, my undivided attention, to be fully present with her for 10 minutes at the end of the day. No phones, no checking, no kind of listening while I check the football score. A fully present Spencer is what Alicia most appreciates. Um, and it's taken me a long time to finally figure that out and internalize it and realize it, and then also say I'm going to give that and I'm going to provide that. Am I
Right.
am I doing it perfectly? Absolutely not. And yet at least I'm to the point where I know that that is the greatest gift. And so when you talked right now, Cari, about people who have given you that gift, I would just encourage anybody who's listening, as I encourage myself, to say, who are the people in my life that are the most important to me? And am I giving them my presence? It's impossible. I can't. Real life requires a lot of from us, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
things pulling us in a lot of directions. I'm not suggesting that I should or could or it would be helpful to just be staring at my wife for 24 hours a day, right? Um, because pretty soon the mortgage payment would be missed, and then we'd be staring at each other uh, on in our car instead of in our house. I mean, right? So there are some uh, things that we always have to take care of that are important to take care of. That for me, I won't speak for everybody in the world. For me, it is important, and I desire to, and I aspire to provide housing and food for my wife and children, and that requires work, and I do, and I also enjoy my work. And one of the best things, and that just occurred to me here at the end, like to make that comparison of 15 years ago this Christmas, of giving her what I thought was going to be this great gift and so well received. And I'm just the best husband, the most considerate, to her doing her best to not cry in front of my parents, because the lack of transparency, communication, making budget decisions together, etc., was much more difficult than any excitement about, oh, I got a wedding band. I'll
Right.
just say one other thing on that. Will Smith, in his book, which I don't remember the title of right now, that I listened to on Audible probably 3 years ago, talks about buying a horse ranch about 50 miles east of LA for Jada without
Okay.
talking to her about it.
Ooh. Okay.
She she had a horse, she had horses growing up. She loves riding horses. And I don't remember all the details, and I won't try to get into that now. The point that he shared in his book was that she never got over that. So the ranch was never what he envisioned it to that it was going to be. She loves horses, she loves property, like space and to live out in the country. I mean, it's not really the country, it's only however far from LA and probably was crazy expensive. But the point is, like, they had the land, they had the horses. This is going to be everything that she's ever wanted. And she, according to him in his book, never embraced it. Never. And so, was there a lack of presence, an awareness that led him to do that? I don't know. I can speak for me with the $300 wedding band. There was a lack of awareness. There was a lack of presence. There was a lack of listening. There was a lack of understanding love language. And I can still do better. And luckily, God's continuing to bless me with life and continuing to bless me with a wife who's patient and understanding and forgiving. And yet, at least now I know, and I do make an attempt. As you know, there are times when I literally just have to rip this thing. It almost feels like ripping it out of my hand. I'm going to put it over there,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
or I'll go put it on the nightstand and then go back into the kitchen,
Right.
or vice versa. Leave it in the kitchen when you go into the bedroom, whatever. That presence, you've talked about it. We've talked about it. You've said that people giving you that gift,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've talked about it without even realizing that maybe it was a gift to one of those boys last night. To be present with them at the ballpark in those moments of,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with you. We're just doing this. We're warming you up. We're playing catch. And you sharing when times that you didn't have grace for yourself and you didn't even realize that somebody was being fully present for you. And looking
Yeah.
back, you can see that that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And talking about Gary and how he's left you a message, and he's left me messages that you can feel his presence in a voice note.
So much.
So, you know, what a way of being.
I don't even have words because as I think about, you stated Dave Wharton is somebody who's incredibly present. Dave, if anybody knows my story, Dave Wharton spent 2 years pulling me out of the most horrific Black Bottom's basement. Black Bottom's? Rock Bottom's
Rock bottom.
basement.
Yep.
Rock,
Yep.
Rock Bottom's basement. And, so close to not being here anymore. And if it wasn't for Dave, then I wouldn't be
Wow.
here doing this.
Mm.
I wouldn't be on this earth. And he was one that scared me because of his presence and how present he was. And I'm like, I don't know how to process this. I don't know what to do with this guy that's not saying anything and interrupting me and has his own thoughts and ideas and is just hearing me. There's so many people out there. And like you stated with the book, go back and read the questions. Go back and read the questions. And if you do that often enough, my experience was that I did that over and over and over until I was able to come up with my own questions and say, who do I need to be more present? Who do I need to be a gift to people that they've been to me? And who do I need to be somebody who can give myself grace? You've given yourself grace for that first gift. You could be holding on to that 15 years later. A lot of people do. I did. I held on to things for 46 years. I had no idea that's not how the world worked. We could forgive ourselves. It's a work. Like Steve says, it's a mountain without a top. We're imperfect. We're always going to be working at this. But the more you do it, the more you put effort into it. I love your idea of wanting to get into meditation to increase your ability to be present with people, the faster it's going to come, the more often it's going to happen, the more like Gary we're going to become and be so laser focused. And I want to thank you for being on this show and sharing your experiences, sharing your thoughts on this with the world. If people want to get in touch with you, Spencer, to learn more about this, to hear more about your thoughts, your stories, or just to reach out and tell them how what you said has impacted them, how can they reach you?
Well, I think the easiest way for a lot of the people who might see or listen to this podcast is to add me as a friend on Facebook. Um, Anybody who I see, like now I've got enough people like you, like Dave, who it's going to say, "Oh, these are your friends in common," and I see, "Oh, that's where this is coming from." I yes, of course, accept. And also, my email is very easy: Spencer at S like Sam, A Alpha, L Larry, firm as in lawfirm.com, Spencer at salfirm.com. And and I have a LinkedIn, I have an Instagram, I have uh the easiest thing is for many people, I think, hey, love to connect on Facebook. And people like yourself, like Dave, who we met at, only briefly. With Dave, I met him very briefly at the Ultimate Experience in Scottsdale last January, and then he reached out on Facebook, and because of that, we were able to have a great Zoom conversation, and we plan to do so again in the future. And it has been a blessing to my life to sit in conversation with other people who are like minded, also pursuing self improvement, also seeking to be um, a fuller, more present version of themselves. And uh, that's been a great blessing. So that was an interesting question that I didn't anticipate, Carrie. How could somebody reach out? And I would love anybody to reach out who feels a nudge to do so.
Wonderful. And I will say, since Spencer Lee, I'm sure there's a million of them on Facebook, not a lot of Carrie Rickabahs. If you need to
Yeah,
friend
there you
me to
go.
friend Spencer, do it that way, but we'll get you in touch with Spencer. As you've heard today, he has a testimony of presence and what it can do for self and for others, how to be that. And I just really, really want you to know how grateful I am that you were willing to share this piece of you with us today.
Well, I did it gladly, excitedly. When you have reached out and invited me, I thought, oh yeah, that'd be really fun. And as any good lawyer, I love to talk. I've always been good at talking, and I'm becoming better at listening.
Love it. Love it. Spencer, thanks so much. I love that line that you just said, but I am going to ask anyway. Is there anything else that you would like to say to leave our listeners with right now?
So at Mountain View High School, which I briefly mentioned earlier, at both exits from the main student parking lot, there are these little signs. And I don't know if the current principal put them there or somebody before. One of the exits, it says, keep trying. And the other exit says, it gets better. And so if anyone who's listening or sees this in a week or a month or 3 years, who knows? It's the internet, it's there forever.
Right.
Keep trying, it gets better.
Thank you for that. Thank you again for your time tonight. Anybody wants to get a hold of Spencer, have a conversation, reach out to him, reach out to me. I'll get you in touch with him. Really appreciate you, Spencer. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And everyone, thanks for listening to the show. We're excited that you're here. Always feel free to reach out to anybody in the Ultimate Coach community to join the Ultimate Coach community. Anybody in there will be willing to have individual and further conversations with you. So love you all. We'll see you again soon. Take care.